Okay, so I got this book called IELTS Speaking Actual Test Answers or Suggested Answers, and I had a look at some of the suggested answers. Some of them were okay, some of them were not so great. So I thought in this video I'd have a look at the answers and compare some of them to answers I would give to these questions. So I hope you guys find it useful. Alright, so here's our first topic. It's on buses or taxis. And question number 1 is, do you often take buses or taxis? Sample answer: almost every day. Since my house is so far away from my university, it's impossible for me to travel by motorbike. In addition, the air is heavily polluted by exhaust fumes and traffic jams always take place, especially during peak hours. Thus, I prefer to take the bus to save time, save gasoline, and causing less pollution. Alright, so here for traffic jams, the writer said traffic jams always take place, but we wouldn't use the verb take place with traffic jams. Instead, we could just say there are always traffic jams. Now, the question is in the present tense, asking about habits, but the writer says I'd prefer, so let's change that to just I prefer. And then here we have an infinitive: to save time, save gasoline, but then we have the gerund causing, so let's change that to cause. And then here's my answer to the same question. I used to take the bus to Taipei, but I hate that the bus drivers never wait for people to get off at their stops. I don't know, the whole bus system is kind of crazy. People hit the bell to get off and then immediately get up and move to the front while the bus is still moving. Now I take the train instead. And taxis, not really. Only when we go to the airport. So like once or twice a year. Yeah, the bus system really is crazy. I don't know why people stand on the buses while the bus is moving. I guess the drivers aren't too keen on waiting for people. And here's the next question. Is it convenient to take the bus or taxi in your city? And the sample answer is, I would say it's easy to book or take a taxi in my city. Nowadays there are Uber and Grab besides other taxi companies, which allow us to use an app on our smartphone to book a taxi. They also estimate the price and inform the route, which make us feel safe and trustable. Alright, now I highlighted other here because Uber and Grab are not taxi companies, but it's not really a big deal. Then price, the money that you pay for taxis is not the price, it's called the fare. Inform the route. Inform should go with a pronoun, so inform who? Inform you, and also we need the preposition of. Now this last clause, which makes us feel safe and trustable, the subject of this verb is us. So we feel safe, but then this trustable, does that mean that we are trustable? This doesn't really make sense. I'm not sure what the writer is trying to say. And also, trustable is not an adjective that's very commonly used. Usually we use the word trustworthy instead of trustable. Now, here's how I would answer the question. I would say so, but I've heard that some locals complain about the waiting time for buses. But I think they're out of their minds. The buses here run pretty frequently compared to some other places. Taxis, well, they're everywhere. I'd rather give my business to Uber though. I think they're fighting the good fight. And question number 3, what are the advantages of taking a taxi compared with buses? The sample answer is their 24/7 tailored service has become improved, or has been improved and become better recently, which is much more flexible and save us a great deal of time and energy, especially when we rush for any appointment. Moreover, by taking a taxi, we don't need to walk to the station or destination. Now, about the tailored service, I'm not sure that taxis really offer tailored services. I mean, you can get in the taxi and they take you to your destination. I don't know what's particularly tailored about that. Anyway, let's look at the grammar. Here we have a present perfect tense has been improved, and so here we also need to have has become, which is much more flexible. If changes have occurred, then one may say has become much more flexible recently. And since we're talking about a singular service, then this verb needs to have an S there. And then this phrase, when we rush for any appointment, would be much better said as when we are in a rush to get to an appointment. Now here they mention station. I don't know if they actually mean station or if they mean bus stop. Probably bus stop, because that's where people usually get on a bus. And then my answer would be, well, you don't need to walk to the bus stop. You can just put out your hand to hail a taxi, and it's speedier. You're not making stops all the time. But on the downside, many other cabs kind of smell like smoke, and some of the drivers are maniacs. But then again, that's true of the bus drivers too. And then the last question on this topic, when was the first time you took a taxi? The sample answer is, my very first time taking a taxi was around 10 or 11 years ago. It was raining heavily after my class finished. The streets were seriously flooded, so my dad couldn't come to pick me up. He asked me to take a taxi to go home. It was one of my very first experience traveling alone without my parents. Alright, so here we have two things that happened in the past. It was raining and their class finished. So the thing that happened first should take the past perfect had finished. And then, so my dad could not come to pick me up. Well, he's not coming here, so we need go instead of come. He asked me to take a taxi to go home. Usually we would just say he asked me to take a taxi home. And since this is one of, and here we have a noun that can take a plural, it was one of my very first, I didn't put it in here. It was one of my very first experiences traveling alone. We need an S there. Okay, my answer would be, took a taxi. I'm not sure. That's not really something that stands out, you know. I guess maybe it was to be dropped off at the airport. I don't really recall, because this is not something that I particularly remember. Okay, here's the second topic, celebrities, and the first question is, do you like any foreign celebrities? And our sample answer is absolutely. The person I'm going to talk about is my bias. Ever since I was a teenage girl, Miley Cyrus. I guess most people at the same age as me grew up with Disney Channel, and among its successful series, Hannah Montana, starring Miley Cyrus, would always be on top of my list. Although now she's grown up, I'm still a big fan of her amazing voice and highly inspiring songs. Alright, now this is part one. We don't need this phrase I'm going to talk about. This is better suited to part two. You don't need such an introduction to part one. Now, here, this person uses since, so we need the present perfect tense. This person has been, not is. And they use the word bias to mean a person, but a bias is an attitude, not a person. You can have a bias towards something, but bias doesn't mean person. So maybe change that to favorite. And here, when they talk about the Disney Channel, whenever you see the name of a channel that has the actual word channel in it, then we need the word the. So for example, the Disney Channel. And here where we have on top of my list, that's the wrong preposition. It should be at, and it's also the top. Now, highly inspiring is not necessarily wrong, but people don't commonly say that, so let's just say inspiring instead. And my answer would be, nowadays, not really. Everything has become so politicized that people who are in entertainment are now constantly spewing off on politics, which is fine to some extent. I mean, everyone has the right to their own 2 cents, But just because someone has a platform, is an, let's say, influencer, it doesn't hold that their opinion is any more valid than someone who doesn't. And here's the second question on celebrities. Do you think we should protect famous people's privacy? Indeed, as you probably can tell, these days fans, anti-fans, and even non-fans are so curious about what their bias are doing. Some are aggressive that they mentally attack their bias by leaving bad comments online. Some even approach them in person on the street, especially the so-called paparazzi. Thus, I strongly agree that there should be some regulations to protect the celebrities' privacy. Okay. So here we have a modal and an adverb. The modal should go before the adverb, as you can probably tell. Anti-fans, I don't know what that is. Does that mean hater? I guess so. And here the writer uses bias again. I substituted bias for celebrities because I guess that's what they mean. And then here with aggressive, here we have the word that. So then we need to say some are so aggressive that they attack these celebrities. Now I don't know how you can mentally attack someone. That sounds like you're attacking them with your mind. So let's leave out that. You can just say they attack these celebrities by leaving bad comments online. And then for calling the paparazzi so-called paparazzi, well, that's what they're called. So we don't need the so-called. That's their actual. That's the actual term used for paparazzi. We don't need the so-called. Now, my answer would be something like this. Probably. These days, everyone, even non-fans, are so curious about what their celebs are doing. And there have been some cases of people having some private photos leaked online. But the right to privacy is not given only to celebrities. Everyone is entitled to that. Especially now that we've seen some companies sell their users' online data. And from what I've learned, some governments have passed legislation to protect people's online privacy. And question number 3. How do celebrities influence their fans in your country? And the sample answer is, I think the influence of celebrities on fans is extensive. It's somehow natural to follow our bias and try to be like them. At the first place, it could probably be just physical changes like clothing, hairstyle, or makeup. However, thanks to social networks, fans and idols are much closer now. Sometimes it's just a status away. However, this mental connection is a two-edged sword, meaning the idols actually need to be more careful about their lifestyle or their manners. Okay, so you've got bias again, used to refer to people. This time I substituted it with artists. And then here, this phrase, at the first place, I think what they mean is like in the beginning or something like that. So let's say at first instead of at the first place. This phrase, it's just a status away. I'm not sure what that means. So I'm just leaving it like that. And then instead of saying two-edged sword, the term we're looking for is double-edged sword. Now my answer might be something like this. I think it depends on the fan. Some fanboys or girls are pretty strongly influenced. Others, maybe not so much. I can't really think of any concrete examples, except perhaps that they buy a lot of merch at concerts and walk around with stickers on their phones, I guess. This is something I've seen quite a bit here. And now, who is your favorite celebrity in your country? The sample answer is, I guess, not only me. A number of young people have been highly impressed by her for the past months. Dejuana Barber, she's our 2016 Miss USA and the representative of USA in Miss Universe, taken place in Las Vegas in the same year. After the beauty contests, she became well known for her outstanding beauty, her amazing characteristics, and also her professionalism. Alright, so if it's not only you, then it's also a number of other people, so we need the word but here. And for the past months, the past few months, or the past couple of months, representative of USA. For USA, we need the word the. Now, this phrase here, I left it the same. but I'm not sure. Is it after the beauty contests or during the beauty contests? I'm not sure. Okay, so my answer might be in Taiwan. I don't think I have any. I don't really watch any Taiwanese movies, so I don't know about that. And the music all kind of just sounds the same. I'm not into that. I sometimes check out the trending Taiwanese YouTube videos, but I don't have any favorites, just those I hate less. And here's the last question on celebrities. Would you want to be a celebrity in the future? And the sample answer, well, though I've never thought about it, I'm pretty sure that rising to stardom would never be one of my life goals. I appreciate all the efforts that the celebrities, no matter which field they're working on, are making every single day. However, I find myself not belong to that world. I mean, you never know what's going on when the curtains close, right? So yeah, I don't think I want to become a public figure, to be honest. Okay. This effort is better kept in the singular, so I appreciate all the effort. And here we have the preposition on, but field usually goes with the preposition in. You work in a specific field, not on a specific field. Now, here we have the sentence, or this phrase rather. However, I find myself not belong to that world. Okay, so if we have the verb find, then this needs to be a gerund. So I find myself not belonging to that world. But it's kind of weird to say I find myself not belonging to that world, because either you belong there or you don't. It's not something that suddenly happens to you. So I'd rather say, however, I do not belong to that world. And then here we have this phrase, when the curtains close. I don't know if they mean behind closed curtains. I think so. So I change it to behind closed curtains. And how I would answer this would be to say, the money would be nice, the fame not so much. I don't want people to know who I am. I'd rather be well off and anonymous, like some kind of movie villain, and buy my own island, like Dr. Evil. Okay, and here is the part 2 prompt. Describe a cafe or restaurant you enjoy, and our cues. You should say where it is, how often you go there, when you usually go there, why you like to visit this cafe. And here's our sample answer. I'm an introvert and not really keen on socializing with others, so I often find a noiseless spot to frequent to every time I'm stressed out from work study. It is the small and cozy cafe within a walking distance from my house. This is just the first paragraph. But let's look at this. I highlighted so here because to me this doesn't really make sense. Just because you're an introvert, does that have any connection with finding a noiseless spot to frequent? I mean, people who are not introverts, extroverts might do the same thing. So these two ideas are not, in my mind, necessarily connected. Okay, and here we have frequent as a verb. So we don't need the preposition to. So find a noiseless spot to frequent every time. We don't need the to here. Every time I'm stressed out from work study, I guess they just forgot to put the or there. And in this article, it's the small and cozy cafe. This is the first time you talk about this cafe, so we need the indefinite article not the definite article the. And then for walking distance, it's just within walking distance. Walking distance doesn't take an article. And then moving on, unlike other coffee shops in the vicinity of my neighborhood, the atmosphere here is extremely tranquil and serene, which greatly lives up to my expectation. As a person with heavy amounts of daily workload, the cafe gives me a certain degree of peacefulness and calmness especially during nerve-wracking times like final exams when I'm up to ears in assignments. Now, this in the vicinity of my neighborhood, I highlighted this, but I didn't make any corrections because I'm not exactly sure what the writer means by this, because in the vicinity of my neighborhood means like near my neighborhood. It doesn't mean in my neighborhood. So I'm not exactly sure what they mean by this. This here should be there, because when you're speaking, you're not going to be at the coffee shop. And then this, which greatly lives up to my expectations. This is a very awkward phrase. Because either something lives up to your expectations or it does not. It's a yes-no situation. So something cannot greatly live up to your expectation. You can either do it or not. So let's leave out the greatly and just say which lives up to my expectations. And then with heavy amounts of daily workload, it's a very awkward phrase also. So why don't we say with a heavy daily workload? And then this up to ears should be up to my ears in assignments. And moving on, what leaves the most profound impression on me is the complete silence in the cafe, as the shop owner, fortunately, is not interested in music of any kind. So no background music is expected when you come here. I can increase my concentration span while reading a book or other material and finish work with great productivity, compared to when I'm at home, surrounded by many disturbances like babies crying and neighbors arguing. I don't know how impressions can continually be left. So I'm not sure why here it's leaves. Because impressions are usually just created once. So what has left the greatest impression on me? Or what left the greatest impression on me? Oh, by the way, I changed this most profound impression to greatest impression. Because really, nobody says profound impression. Greatest is an adjective that is much more commonly used with a noun profession. And then here, as the shop owner fortunately is, fortunately. So let's swap those two around. So no background music is expected. I don't know who is expecting it. The customers? I don't know. It's just very weird to say that. Because when you walk into a store, I don't think anybody really expects anything about music. So why don't we just say, so no background music plays when you go there. Oh, also, this cam should be go. Again, we are not at the shop right now. And then this finish work with great productivity. It's also just a very awkward phrase to be using. So why don't we say, and be more productive instead of that. And yeah, that's the end here. It's a little bit short. One bonus point is that the coffee there is second to none, which caters to my unique tastes. The foods are really scrumptious, giving me great refreshing energy when suffering from fatigue and stress, I have to admit. Okay, so here they say the coffee caters to their unique taste. Usually people are the ones who are catered to, not people's tastes. So a business or a restaurant might cater to their customers or a group of people that they serve. I left this as it is because I'm not exactly sure what the writer means. Foods here is in the plural, but usually we use food in the singular. And then this last part, I have to admit, this is nothing to be admitting to. This is something good. You're saying the food is scrumptious, it refreshes you, so that's a good thing. So why use the word admit at all? It doesn't really make sense. And here are the questions for part 3. For some reason, there are only 2 questions. Question number 1, what do old people like to eat? I think this is a very weird question, but here it is. And the sample answer is, personally speaking, the elderly are more into vegetables and fruits rather than meat. As they've grown old, the fiber and vitamins obtained from the intake of salads, tomatoes, bananas, and so on are particularly good for their health. By contrast, meat does harm to their digestive system. It's also worth mentioning that the older citizens can't chew thick pieces of meat, so they'd rather eat fish, which is softer and can be easily digested. Okay, now in the IELTS Speaking, your score is not really determined on your ideas or how accurately your ideas are, whether your ideas are based on actual fact. It's just how well you can express your opinion. So the opinion here is well expressed. I just don't know if it's really true. But anyway, that's not really the point. Personally speaking, why have this here? Because what follows is not personal at all. This is not your opinion. This is not about yourself. So just leave out the personally speaking. It's unnecessary. Fruit is pluralized for some reason. Let's leave it as fruit. I don't know why that's red. Let's change that to black. All right. And the second question, how important is it for a country to be able to grow all the food it needs without importing any from other countries? There's not too much wrong with this. In recent times, it hasn't been that important, as it's been easy enough to import anything that was required. Maybe in the future, there'll be more emphasis on being independent in terms of food production, as well as other essential resources, such as energy and fuel. It looks like there are going to be some major changes which could affect everyone in terms of how we look at our ability to survive in the event of another world conflict, where food and possibly water becomes scarce. I don't have that much to say about this really. This is probably just a typo. It should be our instead of out. And in this past tense verb, it should just be changed to the present tense to import anything that is required. And that's about it. Not bad.